I'd like to welcome everybody to the next episode of Industrial Insights Podcast. And today I have Rob Guthrie with me of Guthrie Development. And thank you for joining, Rob. I'm so happy and thankful to have you join me for this hour and then explore all things industrial real estate with focus on condo conversions and value add strategies. And so maybe you can give us just a little background. From what I recall, you came from Burke, and I wasn't sure if you were ever a broker beforehand or where it all started for you and who got you into real estate.
Okay, well, thanks, Justin. I really appreciate this opportunity. And I am an oddball because I didn't start in commercial brokerage. I came right out of USC through their real estate development program and started immediately as an industrial real estate developer.
Okay.
There were some times, lean times during recessions where I renewed my license and got active and was working on full commission. But generally speaking, for the last 41 years, I've just been a specialist in Orange County and the counties that touch Orange County, working on industrial properties, but in particular, small buildings for sale.
Yeah.
And the tagline for our company is homes for business. And that's really what we are, is we
Yep.
build and provide homes for small business owners. And gosh, I've been doing it a long time. And over those years, I've thought about wandering into different product types, different market areas, but really have just stuck close to home and
Stay focused.
specialized. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I still like it, so it's working.
Yeah. I love
But
it.
you're right. I did start with Burke Real Estate Group. Brian Burke and I were fraternity brothers and roommates at USC.
Okay.
And at the time, we didn't know that we were going to go to in business together. I was working for a residential developer,
Okay.
and they transferred me up to Northern California when I graduated. I was working through the USC Real Estate Development Program on an internship basis with this developer. They shipped me off to Northern California, and my wife hated it up there. So Brian and his wife Susie gave us a call during this terrible El Nino winter and dangled this opportunity to come back down to Southern California and uh, work in industrial real estate development alongside Brian's father and founder of Burke, Bill Burke.
Yeah.
And so Bill had recently sold his company or split up his company, Ashwell Burke, which was a brokerage company and development company, asset management company. And Bill didn't want to be as active anymore. And so he tasked Brian and me to continue with the company, but with his backing. And that was a tremendous advantage as young, what were we, 23, 24 year olds, to go
Yes.
out there in the market and have his financial statement, his track record, and just go out and make deals. So we had a great run for 16 years.
What year
And
was that you started with
that
Burke? What
was
did you get?
embarrassed, but it was 1983.
Okay.
Uh, so let's see, what were you doing in 1983?
I was born in 1980. So yeah, I just
Okay.
started to walk and starting to talk. Yes.
I'm used to that actually. I'm one of the old guys left in the market today. And so we had a 16-year run as partners, and then in 2000 I started Guthrie Development Company,
Okay.
and I'm still partners with Brian in a bunch of business parks, and he's not working full time anymore. I'm working with his daughter, Christine. She's brilliant and taking the Burke family of companies into their third generation. So we're still in
Awesome.
touch. And I would say we're friendly competitors. You know, we still do the same thing and run into each other from time to time. But
Yes.
it's hard to believe that it's now been 24 years since I founded Guthrie Development Company. And it's been a yeah, a journey. You know, there's been some ups and downs. I don't know how many recessions I've been through.
At
Uh,
least two, probably three at a
oh,
minimum. Yeah.
I think more. I remember going broke in one of them. See, back in the early 90s, where the first Iraq war
Yep.
We were young and dumb and over-levered, and that one hurt. But ever
Okay.
since then, I've gotten a little better with each recession. It's been a little less painful.
Yeah.
But over the years, I question, especially in those downtimes, what I'm doing for a living.
Yes.
Uh, Being in the business we're in, it is tough at times. We're really a cyclical business, and um, somehow I just can't give it up. People ask me if I want to
They got
retire.
you.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And that, at least for now, I'm having fun, and I just don't want to step away from it.
Yeah.
But so that's a little background. And right now, I have a team that is focused in primarily acquisition of multi-tenant industrial property, and then we have a management company that manages multi-tenant industrial. And
Yep.
because we do a lot of condo conversions, we also do a lot of association management because when we convert one of these business parks to condos, we
Yeah.
go from tenants to owners.
Yeah.
And so we manage the associations on behalf of those owners. And it's a great way to keep in touch with our customers and clients. And as their needs change over the years, if they grow, if they move, we are constantly in front of them. So we like our association management division. But
It's so
yeah,
great
so
to be able to buy multi-tenant and then know, like, okay, this could be a condo project if and when it feels right and the market's right and people are excited about it or the pricing works out.
exactly. We have a project in Fountain Valley where I bought it and then I decided to map it, but I wasn't sure whether or not to sell the units. But it's easy enough just to hang on to it as a leased investment
Yeah.
and then make that call at any point down the road. So just recently, we've decided to release 3 of the 8 units for sale as condos, and
Okay.
um, and again, there's flexibility in these projects. Even when you pull the trigger on a condo conversion, we can decide to keep the other 5 units as leased long-term leased investment property,
Yes.
or we can sell them all off. So there's a lot of flexibility there. But I like when we go into a deal, we always underwrite it as if we're going to hold it as a leased investment.
Okay.
Our financial partners underwrite the deal that way and want us to underwrite the deal that way.
Yeah.
And granted, it may show a slim return going in, but history has shown it in Southern California that over time you look smarter than you really are.
Rob, why are you buying a five cap? That's not good. I can get a five cap doing damn near anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then 10 years from now, they're going to be patting you on the back saying, Justin, what a great idea to buy that at a 5 cap.
Dude.
But yeah, so we start looking at the deal as from a leased investment basis, and then we always look at it from the condo conversion basis as well.
Yep.
And generally speaking, what we like to see, but there's a couple of tests that we run a project through when we're going to look at it from a condo conversion standpoint.
Yep.
And the first is, where do the decision makers live?
Okay.
It's amazing, but time and time again, we sell these buildings to a small business owner, and one of their primary reasons for buying it is it's close to their house.
Yes.
And I often hear, well, I could save a lot of money, if I was only willing to go to X, to Corona, to Victorville, to Kentucky,
Yep.
but they want to work close to where they live. And so we look at the location of the property and try to figure out where are the likely places that our customers are going to live.
Yeah.
So it's a no-brainer in coastal Orange County, and any more in infill Orange County, there's always close proximity to where the decision makers live. But
Yeah.
if we get to an area, and I hope I don't insult anybody from San Bernardino, but I'll use that as an example.
Yeah.
It's a little tougher demographically to find where the decision makers live. You have Redlands and some of the other communities around there, but
Yep.
we don't do as well in communities where there's not a high concentration um, of executive housing.
Home ownership. Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course we look at multi-tenant lease rates and do the comparison of lease versus buy. So we look at
Yep.
what our buyers will uh, generally pay in terms of our sales price and getting a mortgage. And usually our buyers go to the SBA
Yeah.
and use a 504 or 7A, more likely a 504 loan with the SBA, put 10% or more down. And we compare that monthly payment to what their lease rate would be. And then we take into account some of the tax advantages of ownership and show them those. And we do a test up front to see how that compares. Interestingly,
Like, is it
uh,
good for them? Is it as good for them as it is for you? Yeah. Does
yeah,
like the economics make sense for them?
it has to be. And there are some intrinsic benefits to owning that don't necessarily depend on economics. I oftentimes hear of people that are sick and tired of their neighbors in a multi-tenant park, the parking, the
Yep.
management, the owner constantly getting their rent increased, and they like the idea of owning their own place, fixing their cost of ownership,
Yeah.
and controlling a bit more of their environment. Um, but it needs to have some economic basis to have the cost of ownership be close enough to the cost of leasing. Um, and then we look at the amount of multi-tenant space nearby because most of our
Yeah.
buyers come
It's a
within
great
a
idea.
2 or 3 mile radius. So what does the multi-tenant market look like in a 2 to 3 mile radius from our projects? So
Yeah.
those are some general tests that we go through when we're looking at a project on a condo conversion basis. Then some of the other things is we take a look at the city. There are some cities that are very easy to work with and some cities that are very difficult to work with. And so we will,
Increasingly becoming more difficult everywhere, I would guess.
I hate to say it, but that's true throughout California. I'm a pro California person. I'm always going to live here and pay the sunshine tax, but
Yep.
there's a lot of heartache in the time that I've been working in this industry over entitlement, and that's
Yep.
become more and more difficult. So
I
we do
would
look at
guess
that.
conversion approvals and condo maps is probably easier than ground up construction. Like when you think of how people view it and how the city, like internal players view it.
Exactly. Yeah. Oftentimes we're coming
Could
in.
even be a plus, right? If you think of small businesses owning and staying in the area for like it being more stable, and I would think that would be a good thing.
You obviously know the market because that is the message we take to the cities. And there are
Okay.
certain cities like Costa Mesa, for instance, that is very in tune with wanting to keep their employment base with small businesses intact. And
Okay.
so they're very excited about our condo conversions and being able to serve sometimes an underserved market.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, a lot of our buyers are first generation immigrants to this country
Yep.
and are English as second language buyers.
Yeah.
And they come from all over the world. Legally, I don't want to get into politics, but these
Yeah.
are hardworking people who come
They
to
like
this.
to own hard assets. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's amazing that we have such a high percentage of this profile of buyer because
Huge.
they see the
Yeah.
opportunity that all of us have and realize all I have to do is work hard and, start my own business. And at some point, they're successful enough that they want to buy their building. And these are often underserved people in the community. So cities like the fact that we're providing a product to serve these small businesses.
Yep.
Uh, uh, and buying an existing project And converting it works for cities because we're not adding to traffic. We're not adding
Yep.
to the development of a city. So we're able to walk in and be the good guys most times. That's good because personally, I don't like to take on City Hall. If there's going to be an issue,
Rob's the bad guy. Yeah.
no, no, no. I'll cut and run.
Yeah.
I just would, not want to get into that kind of battle. I want their support. And so
Yeah.
early on, we try to make sure that's something that the city wants to see. There's always surprises, but so with these condo conversions, you're spot on. The cities usually prefer that over new development. And then for us, for economic reasons, it breaks my heart because I love development, but we can't pencil ground up multi-tenant or ground up small buildings anymore.
Yeah. Rob, for your background, I started 2004. And so I started in South Orange County. And so I got to work at the end of a few projects in Rancho, Santa Margarita, and Lake Forest. And it was like small buildings for sale all over the place. And that's what that, like a part of the county looks like. And so it was always interesting to see that not continue and wonder like, oh, that was such a great product type and everybody loved it. But then just like it just is not economical. And so it is wild to like want to see that, but that's just not like what is like feasible today. And but thankfully there are a lot of multi-tenant projects in Orange County and in LA County and in the Inland Empire for that matter too.
Yes, but it is a shrinking base because we see now
Yeah.
some of these multi-tenant projects getting torn down for residential and
Yep.
more common lately, these business parks have been consolidated or torn down for big box industrial development.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Justin, since you've been in the market, have you seen new multi-tenant projects built since 2004?
No.
Yeah,
I, and that would make interesting when you think I am 20 years in, and you think of there are people on my team that are 2 and 5 years in, and where should they be buying properties if they're trying to buy small projects on their own? And what you knew when you were buying is different than what I'm experiencing, and same for them. And so yeah, I would say like there are people in the Central Valley that are building them. There's plenty of people that are out of state that are building them, but nowhere around here, and not even like as far east as it gets. That's yeah, it's all just existing product, and yeah, how can you repurpose it?
yeah, and I would love to get back into development because that's how I got started. I actually started at age 14 in construction. My
Okay.
my dad was an architect, his buddy was a builder, and I was told at 14 that I was going to work in construction.
Hey, guess what? You
Yeah.
get to do today, Rob.
Uh, and loved it. I actually joined the Carpenters Union when I was in college, just
Okay.
as my backup plan.
Okay.
Uh, and to this day, when I go out in the job site, just smelling fresh cut lumber, hearing all the noise and seeing the activity, I just love that part of the business. And it just hurts that I haven't been able to do it for so long because economically it's cost prohibitive to build in Orange County, that product type. Uh,
Yeah.
we're content on buying. We can buy below replacement cost.
Yep.
And, that gets into the value add portion of what we do. Typically, we're not buying a fully stabilized, nice, pretty project. We're trying to get in early on an older asset that needs
Yep.
work and do as much value add as we can.
Yeah. I love the some of the projects you're working on. To give two examples, if you have your Costa Mesa one on Logan, that is like an existing older multi-tenant, and then this one in Irvine on Thomas that was like a single tenant building, and you were able to figure out a way to multi-tenant it. Like those are two totally different plans that are both you both have going on in Orange County and seem to be wildly successful.
Well, those are two good examples. The building on Thomas and Irvine Spectrum was unique in that it was a larger building, but it wasn't a square. It was a long rectangle. And
Yep.
so it made it easier to cut it up into six.
Yes. All
Yeah, I can
right.
work with that.
Yeah.
And that Irvine Spectrum market is great. There are just a lot of small businesses that want to own in that market. And so we love that location. And same with Costa Mesa. Costa Mesa draws a lot from Newport Beach. So we built that project on Logan, or as an existing project that we converted.
Yep.
We spruced it up a bit. But a majority of the buyers were Newport Beach toy storage people.
Cars or
Yeah.
toys. Yes, for these. Yeah.
Costa Mesa is becoming the king of car storage. It's interesting how that's really caught on, but we had a lot of that. And if you
You
drive,
can't park an RV in there though.
sorry,
Or
sorry.
yeah.
uh, when you drive by that project, though, it looks like it's vacant. People often ask, did you sell all those units or what's going on with that project? Because it's primarily uh,
Yeah.
storage, uh, toy boxes, and it's not
On
always.
the weekends, you would see more people there, perhaps.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Uh, so yeah, we can. Uh, Brokers that bring us deals don't think about these existing larger buildings that can be broken up into small units. I try to encourage them to take a look and filter their filter the projects through that lens. Trying to take an existing building and convert it into smaller units.
You would need to pay a lot less for that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, the cost to do it is surprisingly high. It's much easier to get into an existing project and just bring it up to date. But
Yeah.
anymore, we're pretty much gutting the inside of these multi-tenant business parks because they're outdated. They don't meet current ADA code, and
Mm.
uh,
Yep.
we find that if a building has 10% office and 90% warehouse, when we tour a buyer, it's that 10% office that is the sizzle. For some reason, that's what sells, and that's what.
Ooh, this
Yeah,
looks nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for us to spend a little bit more money on the office finishes and add a little bit extra, and that tends to set the hook more often than the high clear warehouse, the great loading and circulation. Um,
Yeah.
but uh, we uh, we can't. A lot of times we can't work with the existing TIs in these projects. They've got functionally obsolescent, low clear ceiling height
Yeah.
in the office area, restrooms that
Dark,
don't meet code.
dark dungeons.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so that's been something that we've been doing more and more often is just start over and really make it look nice for the buyers.
You know, a lot of people in Orange County in the search for more projects go to San Diego. Have you stopped at the county line? Have you explored that, or what's your experience been looking into that?
So our territory is Orange County and any county that touches Orange County. But for
Okay.
instance, with San Diego, we're active in Oceanside, Vista, Carlsbad, but we don't
Okay.
want to go further south than that. So we're not going to be down in Otay Mesa, out in
Okay.
Poway. Uh,
Okay.
and in the Inland Empire, Corona, Chino, Ontario, infill Inland Empire we love, but we're not going to go to Inland Empire East.
Yes.
In LA, Santa Fe Springs, South Bay, Port area, but we're not going to go out to Santa Clarita or Thousand Oaks.
Yep.
So we do see San Diego has a lot of similarities to Orange County uh,
Sure.
market-wise, demographics, and we love that North San Diego market. The largest
Yeah.
project I've ever worked on was in Oceanside, the Pacific Coast Business Park. So we were partners in that. It was a 120 or 130 acre development, and we were the industrial partner. There was a multifamily partner that initially bought the property, but they brought us in because there were only 30 acres of multifamily and 100 acres
Hmm.
of industrial.
Okay.
And we developed that, built out a couple of business parks, and then sold it to AMB, which was then acquired by Prologis.
Yes.
And we still manage those parks down there, with the association management. And we are still looking and poking around in that North San Diego County market. Love that area.
Yeah. That's wild to stay on and manage all these projects. Like for keeping your head in the game and your ear to the market of what's going on and seeing how things are performing and how to underwrite like rents. And that seems like a great, like a virtuous cycle that can help continue to keep you plugged into the market.
Yeah, it's not a wildly profitable business, but it does keep us in touch with our customers and it keeps us up to speed on expenses, what's going on in the market in terms of these vendors and what they charge to maintain and take care of a property and where are we going with utilities and insurance and other things. So it helps us to stay current.
Yeah. Tell me about condo project pitfalls. What could go wrong?
Oh yeah, we've had some nightmares.
We
Uh,
know bankruptcy. That can go wrong. We don't wish that upon anybody.
so let me start with one of the positives of doing these condo conversions, doing versus doing ground up development is there's generally an income stream in case the market
Yes.
goes south on you. So if the sales market goes south, which it will, it's a very discretionary purchase. Um,
Hmm.
you always have the income to turn around and lease these units, and so that's a positive versus ground up. We've been stuck with projects where we've built 20 buildings and complete construction, the market tanks, and you're sitting on a project with zero income.
If
Uh,
you had 20, 100,000 foot buildings in Ontario right now, you may be sweating. Yes.
yeah, yeah, uh, yeah, yeah. Thank goodness for that. Uh, so with the buying the existing multi-tenant, it's less risky.
Yep.
But like I touched on before, that purchase decision is very discretionary. And when markets slow down, when interest rates rise, it's one of the first things that slows down for us is that a business owner will say, "Oh, I'm not, no need for me to buy a building today. I don't think that real estate prices are going to continue to appreciate the way they have, or I
Yep.
need to preserve my capital for my business, or why not just stay leasing?" Uh, so,
Rents are going down right now. Maybe I should, yeah. Yeah.
excuse me. Uh, so, yes, we've been stuck before in the market where the sales market just stops. And we have tools that we use. One of them is to do a lease option. So
Hmm. Yep.
for someone who really wants that dream to own their own building, we'll put them in on a lease. Typically, what we do is we agree that the lease is 10% over market, and
Okay.
and we will credit that 10% plus some towards their down payment if they exercise their option.
Okay.
But if they choose not to exercise their option, they have to stay on that, say, 5-year lease at a premium, which then allows us to sell it as a leased investment, to small investors. So that's one way to try to move product when the market is slow. And
Rob's in the game. That's a fantastic mechanism for how do you align the incentives to have them pull their end of the bargain and execute.
yeah,
Yeah, and be motivated.
it can be a win-win. It really can work. And then in the past, we've also carried some financing. Do a second trust deed or an AITD where we help them with their down payment
Okay.
and short term.
AITD, what is that?
All inclusive trust deed. I think it's a wrap where you take the first and the second and wrap it together. It's
Okay.
been a while since we've done that. It's just typically a second trust deed that we'll do
Got it.
to try to move product.
Because you might have a construction loan out there. Yeah.
Yeah, and these construction lenders sometimes get impatient if you they'll go to the loan docs and have you read the first sentence where it says, "I hereby promise to repay."
Yep.
And one thing I'm proud of is that I've always repaid, even when I have to dig into my pocket to do that, which I don't like to do.
Yep.
But
Yep.
it's not all easy. There are times when moving these buildings is difficult, and so we have to go into our tool bag and see what we can do to help keep the activity, keep the sales, and pay off our lenders.
Try and keep the timeline. Or if you have to change the timeline, like it's something that still is good for them too.
Yeah, that is probably the most important, especially with our equity investors and IRR-based returns. It's
Yeah.
really important for us to stay on schedule. And we touched on earlier with entitlement, that can really hurt the returns to an investor if we get hung up in the city for an extra six,
Yep.
12 months. And if sales slow down, we can hang on to the project and keep it as a leased investment, but it generally drags down the returns to the equity investors. However,
IRR time is a huge component piece of that.
yeah, and that gets into on the capital side of things. For some reason, we've never been able to attract the true institutional
I was going to ask about
investors.
this if it's all friends and family and country club and yeah.
Primarily, I think we up to a certain size deal, it's friends and family, country club equity, just private equity investment. We're closing escrow in a week and a half on a deal in Anaheim, and it's set
Nice.
seven investors, myself and six commercial brokers. Uh,
Yeah.
and I know you own property, Justin, so you know what that's like. So it's been good for me to cultivate those relationships over the years. What's happening though is that I need to get out there and meet some of the younger people in the market, and I include you in that, uh,
Yes.
where a lot of the work's being done by brokers that are your age and your level of experience, which just is the sweet spot because you've got 20 years of experience, which gives you all the knowledge that you need. And you're
Yep.
still young and energetic and active, and you have a plan. And those are the people that I'd love to reach because I'm now in my mid 60s and most of my contemporaries have retired or moved on. And I
Yes.
really need to get to a different generation. Uh, Yours is a sweet spot. If I go down one generation younger, uh, still in early in the learning curve, lots of potential, but I see a lot more deals from people your age that know what they're doing, and I also am getting investment through that same vintage broker who's been around long enough, made some money, and sees the value of investing in a property. So that's our typical deal up to a certain size. Once the deal gets larger, say 15, 20 million and above, we have some small, medium size equity funds that we work with. Uh,
Okay.
and that's nice. It's a single check. They can act quickly. Today, it's actually easier for me to do a $20 million deal than it is a $10 million deal
Okay.
because to cobble
Yep.
together the friends and family equity takes a lot more work than calling one of our funds and just having a very quick decision made and boom. So, but back to the institutional investors, they just kind of they don't like our product. They don't like these high.
How can that be,
I
Rob? That
know.
sounds
I,
crazy. How can they not understand
I
it?
still take it personally. You've got small tenants, little or no credit,
Yep.
short-term leases, high
Yep.
management. and all these
They
things.
love apartments.
Well,
This is not that different.
I
Yeah,
need you as my
it's better.
would you be my advocate and go out there and try to convince them because we have not been able to really land with a strategic partner like that.
Yeah.
And yet I see you could build a portfolio of multi-tenant investment property for lease. And
Yep.
and Justin, I know you know that because you own some investment property. And then what you could do beyond that is have strategic conversions in a pool of investment property where you sell some to boost the
Yeah.
overall return to the investors and then keep the balance. And I just think that would make a great mid to long term investment for an institutional investor. I just
Yeah.
haven't been able to sell that dream.
Yeah, that's interesting putting the two plans together, right?
Hmm.
Like when you think of a traditional developer, like the profits in the last unit that's sold or the last couple of units, and to have those last units then be the long-term hold. Yeah, I love it. That's creative.
Well, right now we have a very simple way of bringing in the capital. So it's either private equity or small funds. But
Yeah.
someday I hope to be able to.
You're right that people are in or they're out. Like there's very little like persuading why this is a asset class that is like worthy. Like I haven't found anyone on the fence that I could be like, well, here, let me explain it to you. Maybe surely you don't understand some part of it, and then you're just like, got it. That's just not your style, and that's okay. Everybody can have whatever they like believe is best for them, and but yeah, it's interesting that it's very binary in that part.
Yeah, exactly. You're spot on. I think that I take it for granted that there are a lot of markets in the United States that don't have this product or don't have much of this product. There are
Yep.
places you go where a business owner would say, "Why would I want to own my own building when I can rent?"
Yeah.
Usually, markets that don't have strong appreciation or have an abundance of product or a unlimited supply of land for development. So we see a lot of markets where this product just doesn't exist.
I, I've gone state by state on probably 50 occasions looking about which markets have this product, and it's got to be tilt wall construction, not, like a metal buildings. And you're right, there's a dozen maybe of ones that like you feel good about that have population growth, demographics, job growth, and then have some form of barrier to entry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we find that we need a certain size market. There are some cities that are just too small. For instance,
Yeah.
Phoenix is good. Tucson's a little small for us. If we got three or four projects going in Tucson, we could overwhelm the demand in that market for our product. And
Yeah.
so there are certain markets that look good, but might be just a bit too small for us to put a full-time stake in the ground and try to get multiple projects going in that market.
Surely you've been tempted by Las Vegas.
Oh yeah.
Infill, close, California money's all over the place there. Why not, Rob? Other than stay focused.
No, I think my mistake has been being too tentative. And then
Okay.
what I do is I wait and I wait and I wait, and then I finally start putting my toe in the water right before the market slows down.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so I think we had three deals in escrow in Phoenix before the Great Recession, and
Okay.
we walked away from some deposit money and some pre-development costs, but we saw the slowdown coming, and so we
Yeah.
bailed. And it was just poor market timing. That Phoenix market's great, a lot of activity, a lot of growth,
Yeah.
but we just didn't get in at the right time in the market, and so fortunately we got out, and that shook me up a little. So I've just stuck to our own backyard, pretty provincial.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Phoenix was new to me until about 5 years ago, and then we worked on a really good sized project that caused me to spend a lot of time there. and like figure out what's different and like why is it good. And it ended up being a tenant rep deal on a like a big box building,
Hmm.
which that has blown up over there. So yeah, if it was a boom and bust market with a lot of available land, like and a lot of people rent rather than own, at least like corporate America does, do they in like a small businesses? It's definitely like the rules that apply here don't necessarily apply there. They could be different. Yeah.
There's a lot of coulda, shoulda, wouldas I have in my career.
No, no doubt. Let's get into value add, Rob. How do we add value to these turds? They're oily, they're dirty, they're cracking asphalt everywhere. They don't look so nice. How do we polish them up, and what's worth spending money on that comes back to you? And what are some things that like you could do all day long, but it's not going to move the needle and of actually getting something leased or sold or getting a project done?
Well, we look for those turds. Anymore it's death and divorce, just like some
Yep.
residential. But we have our ear to the ground and look for properties, typically generational properties where there's been a transfer patriarch, matriarch passes away, kids get
A
it.
state.
It's been
Yeah,
ignored for years. They just keep it full by keeping rents well below market, but they don't put any money back in the property.
totally.
And so we look at where we can spend the money to get return. And it's a lot of it boils down to, does the property have functional design? Yeah, because
Yep.
we can deal with the cosmetics. We can put a fancy facade on it. We can bring the TIs up to date, but it needs to be functional in the first place. And
Yeah.
we find that,
100%.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Fortunately, a lot of these old projects were built at a time where coverage wasn't so tight, and design, you still had nice rectangular properties, not these last bit of infill properties that are funky and odd shaped. But
Yep.
so we find they have good bones and we can work with that. Sometimes there are issues. We do see some projects built with, you know, 11-foot clear, tiny little truck doors, things that we can't change. But it's easy for us to come in and just take the finishes, including, windows, doors, and bring them up to date. And we have to completely change the tenant mix because the people in these old projects are there for a reason. They're paying dirt cheap rent for a reason. And they're
Yes.
typically not going to be excited about this brand new shiny project at a higher rent. Uh, so
Yes.
so we'll spend the money to bring them up to speed, but we have to re-tenant. And also on these condo conversion deals of note, when we go through this value add process, we're always surprised at how few of the existing tenants actually buy their own unit.
Okay.
And we have a great program for existing tenants where we say it's going to take us a year to process this map and condo plan and record it and be able to sell you your unit. And in that
Yeah.
year's period of time, we'll give you a credit of X amount per square foot on your rent towards your down payment, so that when you're ready to buy, a good portion, if not all of your down payment has been made and credited to you. So why not buy your own unit, Mr. Tenant? But we have very few of them that actually do.
10%,
It's
something like
probably a
that.
good guess. Yeah, yeah. 10%, maybe a couple per project. But there are plenty of people out there that don't want to be in that type of older, dilapidated project. So if we can get that value add done, there is a broad pool of people that want something that's nicer, newer, better. And
Roof. Got to do the roof most of the time, I would guess.
absolutely, thank goodness for these, coatings that we can do now that can really add a lot of life to the roof and at not quite the expense of a complete re-roof. But
Oh
we
yeah.
jump in early and look at roof and HVAC and try to make sure that when someone's buying, they want to know that they're buying something that they're not going to need to replace immediately. Now,
Yes.
I did get a little greedy when the market got hot,
Oh yeah.
and we did try to push things through, and tell these buyers, okay, the air conditioning is beyond its useful life, but
Yep.
take it or leave it. Uh,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
working. Yeah, well, I'm not going to replace it if it's working.
but that's not the case today. I think we're looking at replacing and bringing everything up to speed that is truly functional. And the roof, HVAC, paving, we actually look at the condition of the slab inside the warehouse and also have structural engineers take a look at the roof structure and what limitations we might have. But generally speaking, the sizzle isn't all the pretty stuff,
Yes.
and so we enjoy that process of redoing the landscaping, trying to change the elevations, add something new and exciting, new signage, obviously new paint and new improvements on the inside. And
Tell us about the sizzle, Rob. I love it. Like on the exterior, you and your architect and the architects usually have the best ideas of what's the coolest, newest look that maybe will pass your contractor's test of is it practical? How would you describe some of the design features that you've enjoyed along the way?
so uh, the architect always sells the dream, and then we always bring them back
Yes.
to reality once we get the price from the contractor. But
Yep.
we like to create some sort of experience at the entry, an awning,
Okay.
a metal overhang. On our Costa Mesa project, we took this old style design and we looked at it and said, this is like mid-century modern industrial. And so we
Yeah.
just embraced it and went with that with the color scheme, put some light fixtures, vintage type of corrugated metal.
Eat it up in Costa Mesa. That's perfect for that neighborhood,
Yeah,
right?
even down to the signage. I ripped off the Welcome to Las Vegas sign idea, and if you look at our entry signs, it's just that sign with the
Nice.
name of the project and with some color schemes that really harken back to mid-century modern. And
Yep.
it was new and different, and it really did change the appearance of the project. So our biggest bang for the buck is in landscaping. It's not expensive, but you can really add quite a lot. And we will not only redo the existing planter areas, but sometimes there are places where we can add landscaping that will break up the monotony of the elevation or give someone some sense of arrival in the entryway. And
Yeah.
then exterior lighting, it's inexpensive, but it adds a lot. A lot of these old wall packs and recessed fixtures in the entryways, we can add some cool looking steampunk industrial light fixtures, and it adds something at a relatively low cost. Uh,
Yeah.
and, the paint scheme, we try to get as bold as we can, sticking with industrial colors. Industrial buildings don't work well by getting too brilliant and too bright on the color scheme.
Too sparky.
Yeah,
Yeah. Neon.
we
Yeah.
tried that once on a building on Kettering Street in Irvine, and we got way over the top with the architect. It was like almost like graffiti art on the building, and
Yes.
it went over.
I'm in, Rob. I would fall for that. Yeah. I would be like, this is fun. Yeah. Let's
I
try it.
wish others thought the same thing. We ended up having to repaint the building. So we got a
Okay.
little too excited, went a little too far. but
Yep.
it's the basic stuff, it's the basic things that we do on the Sizzle, on the exterior appearance, and then one.
We do new roll-up doors on everything.
Sometimes, there's a point of no return with some of these doors where you just can't do anything to repair it. And if a forklift is punched through the door too many times, take it out, put a new door in. And we have a pretty good door guy that can do a good job on really refurbishing existing doors. Uh,
Okay.
but it's not a big expense overall to add it, and it looks good and it feels good when a potential buyer comes in. And one of the things with these old projects is electrical. Like this new project we're buying in Anaheim, this old project we're buying in Anaheim has single phase wiring. And
I didn't even know we had any of that
yeah,
left. Yeah, I thought we got to all of it.
it's still out there. We had that in Costa Mesa as well. And
Okay.
sometimes there's constraints where the transformer will only allow so much capacity and we can only convert so much to three phase. And fortunately,
Do you have to get Southern California Edison on the line, or is that a
you can,
last
you can
resort?
get them on the line, but getting them to the project is another story. uh,
Okay.
yeah, we have some constraints sometimes with that. Interestingly, we had a deal in Tustin where a electric vehicle charging station really wanted that site and they were going to pay a premium for rent. And I really wanted them at the site,
Yep.
but it was going to take SoCal Edison 2 years plus to bring the power to the site that they needed to put all those charging stations in. So we couldn't get the deal done.
You would hope for like a public-private partnership where we could get someone in there that would supercharge the Edison, just to like find a way of like, there's a lot of this going on and there's got to be a better way.
There's probably a place somewhere in this country where that happens, but it's not in Southern California,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Yeah, these utility companies have not been very cooperative. It's taking longer and longer to get them to the property to add anything. And yeah.
Tell me about Mezzanine Office, Rob. Didn't you do just a tad bit in the Irvine project, or that was like storage that's permitted? I know Mezzanine Office usually scares some people, but then in Irvine, there's a lot of that there that like people who value it or who can at least use it are familiar with it. Is that something that is just kind of like a Irvine specific where you can get away with?
it's a
Okay.
four-letter word, Mez,
Okay.
and we do own it.
Bad
Yeah,
news.
no, our Tustin project, there's a fair amount of mezzanine office. The project in Irvine, there was a lot of mezzanine. In that project in Irvine, the building that we took that was a single user building, we actually cut a lot of the mezzanine out of the building and as we
Okay.
repurposed it because we felt that there
Yeah.
was too much mezzanine. And
Yeah.
it restricts your buyer pool. I think there are a lot fewer companies out there that need 50% office build out in today's environment. And
Yeah.
we would much rather have 10% office than 50% office. Um,
Yeah.
so in general, it's not my favorite thing. And it's not that we
Yeah.
can't work with it. It just limits our buyer pool, our tenant pool. So
Yeah.
yeah. Uh,
And then environmental, have you had to deal with much of that? Or if a multi-tenant is maybe a little different where they're not all like manufacturing uses from the 70s that like where they could use things that they can't use now, and like it could be old issues like lurking.
yeah, we've done small scale remediation, but not any brownfield type of development. We will take hydrocarbons off site. We'll take some heavy metal contaminants off site if there's a limited scope and if it hasn't gotten down to the water supply.
Yep.
But we don't want to take on big projects. It's just not worth it to us. It gets back to the time and the returns. If it takes too long to go through that process, it's just not worth it for us.
Yeah. Hey, you're probably better for having not had to deal with a lot of those. The more I deal with, the less it's there's so many issues that can be there that take so long and can like make things so difficult.
Yeah, that's uh, that's one that we'll avoid if it looks like it's too much effort, too much time, too much cost. We just will avoid it.
Yeah.
That being said,
So,
I think there's people that make a good living on getting discounts and working through that process. It's just not us.
yeah, I found there's a couple of groups that are consultants by trade that have turned into investors and say that this is my skill set and like not that they work for free, but like they can digest these issues as just like a normal course of business. And there's not that many of them, but it's interesting that someone like got hip to that angle and like is trying to pursue it.
Smart. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, any advice for people coming up in the business and like trying to get into your line of work? What would you provide them as advice?
I think don't make too big a deal out of it. It's a pretty simple process, and I would say, for those, I'm going to use an example of a commercial real estate broker. You could
Yeah,
probably,
love
yeah,
this. Yeah.
make it a side gig. Try it. Do a limited scale, do a small project, and go through the process and see how it goes. And if you enjoy it, if you do well, then jump in with both feet. I think that
Yeah.
I sometimes underestimate how simple it is because we've been doing it for so long. And
Yeah.
periodically we run into a building owner with no real estate experience who says, "Oh, to hell with it. I'm not going to sell to you. I'm going to do what you do." And it's usually a heartache, but it's because
Yes.
they're completely outside the real estate community. But for those that
Yep.
are looking to do this, I think that there's a market. It's a limited supply. I think that's where your constraint is finding the product. And I would say that
Yeah.
uh, don't underestimate the cost to transition the property for sale. So for example, we're buying today between $200 and $250 a square foot going in on these multi-tenant business parks to sell at
Yep.
$400 to $450 a square foot. And a
Yep.
lot of brokers look at that and just say, "Oh, it's $200 profit per square foot."
Straight to Rob's pocket and nobody else gets a
Yeah,
nickel.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wish it was like that. So be careful with the cost, especially what I'll call the soft costs. The cost
Okay.
for architecture, engineering, especially permits and fees at the city, um, legal, and certainly the financing costs in today's interest rate environment. That's one of our largest line items right now is interest expense. Um,
Okay.
and just be careful going in on what can limit your expenses. Try to limit your expenses and know that you have a pretty good margin because there are things that are going to happen in every project. There's something that comes up that you don't anticipate, so leave some margin there, some contingency,
Yep.
and uh, and then just be patient because especially in this entitlement process, it can take time. And then to the extent you can uh, get the right listing brokers, it makes a huge difference to have an experienced broker who knows what they're doing. I grew up in the industry with a mentor that was very pro broker. He owned a commercial brokerage company, and that's been
Yeah.
my bread and butter. I never, we've, people have mentioned to us at times, why don't you take it in house and do that process
Yeah.
yourself, list all your projects, and uh,
You could save a boatload of money, Rob. It'd be easy.
nope, nope, nope. I love paying 6% commissions on everything we do because the brokers earn their keep and they bring me great deals. So I'd say that if you're going to go out there, think twice about trying to do it yourself and get a good listing agent to help you, even if you're in the industry. So uh, that's the limited advice.
It's so great when your interests are all aligned, and then you can really like go out and try and knock it out of the park. Yeah, those are always great
Yeah,
projects.
yeah. So, but I would encourage anyone listening that is thinking about it to give it a try. You can find a small project. There's financing that's available in today's world. Equity is surprisingly easy. Capital's out there. And if you know your market and you've done your homework, I think it's a great business model.
Most of your stuff, I would imagine, comes through brokers, but maybe you have also gone some from like attorneys, maybe even not driving for dollars, but like projects that you've just like seen over the years and maybe like piqued your interest. When you think of just like a deal flow, would you say most of it's just coming out of the like a mid-level broker?
Yeah, I'd say that because our projects are small, we're not going to get the rock star team at every brokerage house to work with us. It's the investment teams that are doing national investment sales don't deal on. Yeah, yeah,
Amazon, yeah.
they don't deal in our world. And 90% of our deals come through the brokerage community. And,
Come,
there are some that come through other sources. Oftentimes it's from owners that I've kept in contact with through the years that I've expressed interest in properties and made offers or done something where they've kept my name in a file. And when it comes time, they reach out to me. And then there are some
yeah.
attorneys or CPAs who know us and reach out to us to say, I've got a client, this might work for them. Uh, and then one of the things I'll throw out there that uh, we've done a fair amount of joint ventures with building owners. And sometimes
Okay.
there's a seller out there that just wants too much or has unrealistic
Yeah.
expectations.
There is? Oh my God, Rob.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all sellers. Uh,
Yeah.
but we've been able to structure deals where we get them to agree to put the property in at a market value, create a capital account for them, and then we do the development. We do all the work. We take all the financing risk, and then we split the profits with them. And they end up at the end of the day doing better than they would have otherwise at the front end of the project. And it's a win-win for us.
Yeah.
So I did 42 buildings at Foothill Ranch in joint venture with the Foothill Ranch Company. And that worked out
Okay.
well. They would put the land in. I would do everything else and we'd split the profits. Back at Burke, we did a dairy farm in La Mirada, one of the last holdout dairy farms. And uh,
I'm familiar
yeah,
with it. Yeah.
and so the Van Dam family, that's now in their third generation, they didn't want to sell the property. Cor Van Dam, the original dairy farmer, had a vision. He thought that property was valuable, so he contributed into a venture. We developed out the business park, and to this day, Cor's long gone, but his family's still collecting some pretty nice income every month from that project. So that's just another option, that sometimes our broker friends that submit us deals don't have that in their radar screen, but it's a way for us to put a deal together.
Yeah. I had known it, not of the kiss of death, but as like the last resort where you're like, oh gosh, what else can we possibly do? But I love that you have been there and like there is a time and a place and it can align interests and it can be a long-term benefit. So yeah, that's great to open your eyes to.
So, Justin, if you want me to joint venture on any of your industrial properties, you can put it in like that and we'll work together and then
Yes.
uh, create a partnership and make it happen.
Yes, I'm in, Rob. Yeah, I'm the gas, not the brake. So usually, if there's a project where we can align like that, yeah, I'm
Love
all
it.
in. That's
Uh,
fantastic. But it's been a real treat, Rob. We blew through an
wow.
hour, and so good way to spend our Friday morning. I really appreciate getting to know you better and you being like open and honest about some of the aspects of the business. And I'm glad that you've had such a great run and you enjoy it and you're here with us and doing it. So I'm excited to bring you some
Well,
projects.
that would be great. I think I really enjoyed this time, Justin. I really appreciate the opportunity. It's been great to spend this time with you.
Wonderful. We'll see you
Okay,
later, Rob.
take
Have a good
care.
one.
Bye.
Yep. Bye bye. Okay.